Hello, everyone. I've been hearing a lot about this vid. I've seen Solo and other notable Ike players react to it, so I guess it's my turn. I'll be reacting to Vars 3's video, What Happened to Ike and Why No One Plays Him Anymore, and I'll give you my thoughts on them.
Release in version 1 all the way back in late 2018 to now reaching 4 years later, our understanding of Smash Ultimate's meta, its characters, what's good or bad, and so on has changed drastically, more so than any other previous title. Some members of the cast who were almost unanimously agreed upon as high or top tier have lost a lot of notoriety, while others who were discarded as mid or low tier have since proved us wrong with the help of version updates or player experimentation. One such character from the first category is Ike, the main protagonist of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and a deuteragonist of Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, my two favorite titles in the franchise. At the beginning of Smash Ultimate's competitive scene, the buffs to Ike either directly, such as improving his
that's me,
indirectly, such as universal reduction to landing lag, have made players gravitate towards him, particularly Leo, who garnered a lot of success with him in 2019. Following the return of offline competition, however, Ike's results have for all intents and purposes vanished, and while we still have a few players representing him like Yez, Raven King, and just recently Mega, who placed top 16 at Apex 2022, he's nowhere near as present anymore, despite being a sword fighter who is still considered by many.
Okay, see, I have to disagree with the notion that he's less present. It's like, he never was that present, even in the beginning of Ultimate. Like, really, only like MK Leo was playing him at the beginning, and then he dropped him later to play other characters, which is fine, you know. I'm not saying that, you know, it's a bad thing, but it's like, yeah, he was at the top, but the only person who brought him to at the top at the beginning of the meta was MK Leo. Literally was only him. I distinctly remember these posters where there'd be all these characters that you would say are very top tier, and then you'd see Ike up there because MK Leo brought him up there. So I have to disagree with the notion saying that I feel like right now his results are actually more prominent than they ever have been. His results are honestly the best that they've been for the entire, you know, bit of Smash Ultimate. Of course, I said before in my last video, there's, you know, Yez getting 9th at Kagabiri, Mega getting, was it 13th or 9th at Apex, and then Saika getting 9th at the Big House. All of those things are majors, and it's multiple people doing it. So honestly, I'd say right now is his best placement so far. I'd say even better than before, just because it was only one person doing it. Now it's multiple people doing it.
Many to be a respectable high tier. So for today, let's find out what happened to Ike, why no one plays him anymore. As the third Fire Emblem character to be introduced in the Smash Bros. Franchise, as well as the third official sword fighter not counting Link, Ike served to contrast Marth's fast frame data by opting for a slower but more powerful approach. He was initially thought of as a replacement, seeing as Roy was not included in Brawl, but their playstyles were nothing alike. Without going too far in detail, Ike's performance in competitive Brawl was average to above average more or less, but his lackluster frame data made him feel a lot less effective than Marth, who wasn't that much weaker but far better in speed and mobility. Come Smash 4, Ike was given a controversial series of buffs and nerfs, reducing his power in exchange for better physics and more generous frame data. Popular opinion came to the conclusion that while the increased mobility in frame data was certainly helpful, it failed to address his flaws and predictable option selection, resulting in a net negative for the character, especially given his loss of power, which
I have to add to this. I would say in Smash 4, it was even worse. You know, I would say it wasn't necessarily worse than, say, Brawl, just because, you know, Brawl, it was an earlier time, not more people weren't in the scene yet. You know, of course, by every single game, the quality of player is getting higher and higher and higher every single game from Brawl to Smash 4 to Ultimate, because I'm going to split up, you know, Brawl and Melee players, because everyone knows that Brawl and the Melee players are in separate places. And everyone who played Brawl, they basically went from Smash 4 and then from Smash 4 to Ultimate. Those are two separate, you know, groups of people. So I'll say the meta for people from Brawl, the pipeline from Brawl, the Smash 4 to Ultimate, it's only been getting better and better and better and more, like less room for error. Yes, Ike, I guess he had a bad jump squat. You know, he had a very slow jump squat frame animation, but at least in Brawl, he still had other techniques that he didn't have to jump as much, because his biggest flaw is that he has to jump so much. And in this game, they gave my man a 7-frame jump squat, which made no sense to me. Why are you gonna make him so reliant on his aerials, yet give him such a dog shit, excuse my language, but a dog shit jump squat? Link had a equal jump squat, but if you know, Link could do everything he wanted without jumping. He didn't have to jump. Ike, If he wasn't jumping, he was going to lose hard. And then of course, Ether not connect. Like Ether was actual trash in this game too. So it was not even remotely effective as a killing option. The moves, it didn't spike well at all. Man, it was such a bad move. Man, Ike was such a bad character in Smash 4. Respect to people like Ryuga, Ryo, and Raven King, man. They brought this character far. When this character was legitimately bad. He was legitimately bad in this.
Ironically, it would have been amazing to have in Smash 4's rage utilized meta. Game updates would alleviate this to some degree, but once again, Ike was seen as considerably worse than Marth in performance, and the reasons to use him were made even fewer after Corrin and Cloud were brought into play. Although he stood firm even after the one he was meant to replace, Roy, was reinstated. Come Smash Ultimate, the playing field was leveled, causing many high and top tiers to be nerfed while simultaneously buffing low and bottom tiers to be more effective. Alongside Roy, who was also suffering from bad performance in 2 games, Ike was significantly buffed across the board. They still wanted to preserve the idea of a slow but powerful sword fighter, yet at the same time making his strengths more discernible and distinguishable from his peers. And initially, they succeeded, most notably through his neutral air. Prior to version 8, Ike's Nair was in hot contention for one of the best in the game, only challenged by the likes of Palutena or Game & Watch. At a startup of frame 10, it's not particularly effective at a shield but has an extremely long-lasting hitbox covering all around him except for directly above. Regardless of whether you hit the strong or weak hitbox, he would then be able to follow up into just about all of his aerials, forward air, back air, up air, or just another Nair. His up air was also completely reworked, no longer being a circular swing but just an overhead slash.
I will be honest in admitting this. When the game first came out, Ultimate, I actually wanted that, the Ryocopter as this thing. I wanted that aerial back. I love that aerial. Of course, I got back to my senses, but yeah. He is so much better with this aerial. It's not even close.
Thus turning it into another generic up air like you see on every Fire Emblem character. As a Knight main in Brawl, I was kind of against it at first, but obviously it's a lot more practical, possessing incredible vertical and even horizontal range while having immense kill power. A staple confirmed for him early on was landing Nair into up air, killing most people at around 80 to 90%. It wasn't flashy, but this gave Ike some of the most straightforward yet potent mid-range pressure and punish game among the entire cast. Meanwhile, his ground game would easily convert into his aerials like down tilt or outright kills such as up tilt, forward tilt, and dash attack. This would further extend into his throws, allowing down throw and up throw to combo into a forward air. Overall, Ike's early popularity was a result of 3 things. The first was how easy he was to pick up. He was always a straightforward character, just not very effective in relation to others until now. With his neutral air, he could effectively spam it in neutral, and his generous hit stun allowed him to combo into any one of his other aerials, depending on where they were hit. He had no trouble closing at stocks through his endless repertoire of 1-2 combos. The second was the Smash community's initial perception of what was good. At the start of Ultimate, many players were immediately drawn to characters with strong nairs at a shield. So many people hyped up Palutena as the best character in the game purely from how broken her nair was, and I mean it was good. It wouldn't be too hyperbolic to say that 90% of Ike's neutral game consisted of spamming
Oh, it's
nair.
me
Granted, it
again.
wasn't the safest on shield at
I will say, I make it a known fact for me not to spam Nair too much. Ike he is more than just Nair. Especially due to that 8.0 patch, he is more than just Nair. And if you're an Ike player and you're really just spamming Nair, you're doing yourself a disservice. He has dude has so many good aerials that lead to so many things. Mix it up, man. Mix it up.
-5, there were plenty of aerials that were -3 or even -2, but when you paired that with how big the hitbox is, not many characters could punish Nair out of shield due to range or lack thereof. The third is an extension of the first and second, the underdeveloped meta. We are now entering year 5 of Smash Ultimate, and the game isn't even a fraction of the way from being solved. The consensus at the time was that Chrom and Inkling were like the top 2 best characters in the game, and Game & Watch was bad. Everyone mostly operated on a first impression basis. That and, the only half-decent DLC fighter we had for the better part of 2019 was Joker. Piranha Plant Hero and Banjo were written off as for fun characters. Interestingly, Ike received a mini rework in version 8.0, forcing those who mained him to reconfigure their win conditions, especially at higher percents. To lessen his over-reliance on Nair into up air to close out a lot of his stocks, his neutral air regained a lot of knockback scaling, preventing you from true comboing into it at mid-percent since it would launch them too high to combo into up air past the 100% mark. In exchange, however, Ether was given tremendous knockback scaling, killing most below 100% if used near the ledge. It's a very slow out of shield option at a frame 15 startup, but if it lands, Ike basically has a forward smash.
Again, I disagree. It wasn't a mini work. It wasn't a mini rework. It actually really improved the character. People always say, up B out of shield is very laggy. However, up B isn't more like, it's not like Chrom's. Chrom's and Ike's up B they're similar, but they're not the same. Brahms is a lot better for punishing a straight raw punish and a shield because it's 10 frames, while Ike's is way better for armoring through moves and hitting you through them. It's really good for that, honestly. I still feel like it's very underutilized. Like, for example, Snake's 4 tilt. His 2-piece 4 tilt. You can up B through it, you can up B after it. Even someone like Joker dash attack. Literally the gap between his first and second kick, I think it's like 6 frames. You can literally true up B through it. There are so many moves in this game where you could literally just like true up B through it, but Ike players just don't do it. And I understand to a certain degree why, because people can pop out of up B, but you have to be a bit smart about it. And I feel like if you position yourself well and you get it, it's such a good move. It's a really good move, but it's still very underutilized.
Shadow Shield. His forward air also lost 8 frames of end lag, so you could reliably use it as an edge guarding tool off stage, on top of doing more damage. Finally, down
definitely
combo potential, and dash attack gained way more KO pressure. The buffs and nerfs were divisive at first, on account of Ike mains losing their patented kill confirm, but in retrospect, it gave Ike players a bit more room for nuanced gameplay, thus allowing for more kill options and less predictable of a neutral game.
Yes.
He was then buffed a little more in 13.0.1, mostly quality of life stuff to increase his already high kill power. The strange thing is that Ike's representation has been even though he was only ever
he played Suarez?
Really nerfed. More
at 404? What was this? I don't remember that at all.
A fantastic response to characters that famously give players trouble. Ness, Game & Watch, Sonic to some extent, Olimar, Pac-Man, even Steve. If not your main choice, he should at least be a common secondary. So what happened between then and now? The first reason is one that he struggled with ever since Sprawl. Ike is straightforward to a fault. Other than Marth and Lucina, I would say he's the swordiest swordie that ever sortied, as in he's the epitome of a sword fighter. Long range, decent power, linear game plan.
Guts!
Many people express Cloud and Lucina as Fundy's characters, where the measure of their success is determined by how good the player's knowledge of the game is. Ike is also Fundy's character. One might try to argue that his Nair is so brainless it plays the game for you, but that's not necessarily true. He does have very good...
Maybe it was in the beginning of the game, but now that's not even a debate. No, it's just not anymore. Get with the times. 8.0 and 13.0 changed that. I gotta stop hearing that over and over and over again. Not Tavares, but anyone else saying that. It's not a brainless tool anymore. It's not. Hasn't been for a year plus.
Range and power, but his mobility is quite horrendous and his frame data could be better. Now, given that sorties are inherently more reliant on players being good at the game, whichever offers more return on investment is obviously going to be the one players will go after. Sadly for Ike, his traits are not unique only to him, leading many to believe that, with all due respect, he's kinda boring. Credit where credit is due. Many pros consider him a high-tier character and can definitely net results in the right hands, but he's comparatively uninteresting. The other sword fighters try to market themselves through some kind of gimmick or personal trait. Shulk is the same premise of emphasizing mid-range combat, but his various Monado arts allow him to instantly shift his momentum and pressure around to the situation. Roy and Chrom trade a bit of range in exchange for far better speed and frame data, being able to rush down even close quarters combatants like Fox and Mario, all without sacrificing too much kill power. Cloud's range is almost on par with Ike's, yet he has better speed, frame data, access to a projectile, more consistent out shield options, and of course, limit, essentially compromising on raw strength and maybe combo potential for better utility and physics. There's also Aegis, specifically Pyra, who has the same exact power, if not more than Ike, with the ability to swap to one of the best characters in—
Not gonna lie, with Aegis, Pyra literally is just worse Ike. She literally is just worse Ike. In every sense of the term, she is just worse Ike. Like if Aegis switched to like Ike, she'd literally be probably the best character in the game. And and I'm not even saying that to be crazy, because literally Ike is just better Pyra. I can't believe people will actually have to try to make an argument that Pyra's actually better. It's like, anyone who actually says that, I just know you don't understand the game or either of the characters, because Ike is just he is a better Pyra.
The game. This might upset Ike players, but in the eyes of those who are looking at all the sword fighters wondering who to pick up, Ike just doesn't stand out. He's strong, yeah, but we have Roy, who's faster, Sephiroth, who has more range, and Pyra, who has an alter ego that everyone wishes never existed. Even among the not-so-hard hitters, such as Cloud, Lucina, and Shulk, they each have more elements of utility that allow for more options. To repeat, Ike is a good character, a great one at that, but his whole niche of being the powerful swordie is not really a novelty anymore. Almost everyone has some way to kill you at 80% or less, making his other problems stand out a lot more. Ike is slow, really slow, which is weird. Not to get too nitpicky.
He really isn't that slow. Is he slow compared to maybe like Roy, I guess, but I'm telling you, man, Ike, especially when if you use quick draw very expertly, man can zoom across the stage even faster sometimes than like Cloud. It's kind of crazy. Like when you're really getting into it, bro, he can really move. He can really schmoove. You just gotta really just know what you're doing. I would compare his movement to Falco in Melee, in that yes, if you just run with them, yeah, they're kind of slow. But if you expertly use their their momentum from their jumps and side B, he literally will go across the entire stage in just a moment, even faster than Roy when done correctly. So I don't think his mobility is bad. So I wish he was a little bit faster. Probably, yeah, but he's not slow. He's not slow in any meaning of the term. He really isn't.
On how loyal a Smash character is to its source material, but Ike is actually pretty dang fast in his home titles, Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn.
Yeah, he's just broken.
As fast as Roy and Marth. Then again, Robin and Corrin's terrible mobility doesn't really speak true to their home titles either. But going back to Ultimate, speed and frame data are valued way more than power because of one simple aspect: lack of turns. In a game like Pokemon, speed and power are balanced around each Pokemon taking one turn. Say you have an Aggron and you're fighting a Weavile. Obviously the Weavile will go first, it's an incredibly fast Pokemon, but Aggron is always promised an opportunity to strike back since Pokemon is a turn-based game. So if he survives whatever Weavile throws out, he can take his turn. Smash is not like that. A fast character can take several turns before a slow character gets to, and even then, the former can use their superior mobility to either snuff out the latter's option or run away to avoid the hit. That's been the most prominent issue for super heavies dating all the way back to the concept's inception. Ike's poor ground and air mobility as well as lackluster frame data somewhat defeats the purpose of his overwhelming power and range. Despite having frame data you would only see on the likes of Bowser or K. Rool, he's nowhere near as heavy as them. He's actually lighter than Samus and Terry, two fighters with pretty damn good frame data all things considered. Naturally, this means he's not really the type of swordy who wants to approach and prefers to go for a more spacing whiff punish oriented win condition, which he's exceptionally proficient at. Against an opponent who isn't aware of his threat range and pressure, Ike racks up damage arguably the best out of any sword fighter, and again, he has a ton of moves that whoop your ass below 100%. But against an opponent who is aware of his pressure and or is equipped with the means to deal with it, the onus is then placed on Ike to approach or be more aggressive, which he can't really do as effectively as Cloud, Roy, Mythra, or Speedform Shulk, nor does he have a way to force approaches the way Robin does. Also, before anyone says you can—
Yeah, like Ike, he can't force you to come near, but also for most characters, they can't really force him to come near them either. People you think, even with their projectiles, they're not that good. It's just more annoying than anything. Wolf's laser, it's not forcing me to approach him like that. It's not. Same with Palutena's projectiles. It doesn't really force me to come at her. It really doesn't. It's just more annoying than anything, I'll say. And that's why I think Ike is still really good. He can't force you to come, but it's really hard for you to force him to come to you. He can come at a very specific range and then stay within that range and then wait for you to come. He can corner you in that sense. He can push, because if he'll come at you and then you'll move more and more until you're at the ledge or something. So it works out well for him there.
Can approach with quick draw, you're out of your mind if you think you can use that in neutral. In other words, you're only—
What do you mean? Yes, you can. B-reverse that shit. B-reverse it, bro. B-reverse and wave bounce it. It works like a charm, bro. You'd be wowed by how much that works against, even some of the best players. You know how many times I've hit someone like Jazzo or Omega with wave bounce side B? It's actually insane because it's unreactable. It is. Like, for example, right? It's actually possible to punish Terry for doing power wave. If you see him doing it, you can instant jump side B and punish him for it. You have to be on point. Oh no, it's a great approach tool, of course. And also the funny part about it too is, like, if you don't charge it and it just hits their shield, it will actually auto space. So if they'll just panic, do an option like the grab, it'll miss, and then you get a free punish. It's kind of really stupid that way. It auto spaces for you if you don't charge it up that much. If you charge it up a lot, then it'll be like right in their face, and then they'll easily be able to grab you. But yeah, no, it's actually a pretty worthwhile approach tool. It is.
The only asset is your range and power, except every swordy has range and power. Yes, Ike has more range and power, but it's not that much more to where his peers can't kill. And, we now have Min Min and Sephiroth with even more range. See, at the start of the video, I brought up that one reason Ike was popular early on was the result of prevailing wisdom at the time valuing neutral air a lot more than they should have. Nowadays, one aspect of the game among others, of course, that is highly sought after in high and top levels of play is the ability to alleviate pressure. That is to say, how good you are at getting your opponent off of you. For example, Cloud and Ike are relatively similar when it comes to handling most matchups. Not the same, but a lot of similarities. The reason Cloud is more popular is not only that he's faster and has a projectile and all that, but he is better out of shield options. Climbermaster doesn't have anywhere near the same kill power as Ether, but it's a far better get-off-me tool, and Swordies really need that. Lucina and Marth have a frame 1 combo breaker in the form of Aerial Dolphin Slash, Shulker's Air Slash, and Shield Dart, stuff like that. Why? They're at their best when fighting mid-range, unless your name is Roy, Chrom, or Mithra. Even those three, they would rather play at mid-range because it means they can hit you while you can't hit them. This extends to characters you wouldn't expect. Game & Watch isn't classified as a swordy, but he enjoys playing mid-range and is arguably the best get-off-me tool in the form of fire. This is one area where playing Ike feels really uncomfortable. He has no way of getting opponents away from him once they do get up close and personal. That gets even more frustrating when you remember that Ike is a very exploitable recovery, requiring him to have immaculate stage control and prevent being thrown off stage as often as possible. Once again, an out of shield option or get off me tool would be really nice to have for someone who has to play like this. The fastest option he has out of shield is frame 13 or grab at frame 7, not fast enough to punish most landing aerials. In essence, Ike sort of relies on his opponents being bad or careless to perform at his best, making his performance at low and mid-level play really good, passable at high tier, and underwhelming at top tier. To repeat, many players believe Ike is a mid-high tier or high tier character. Very respectable placement, and without a doubt his
I'm just noticing, yeah, he's putting a lot of clips of me, bruh.
To punish most landing aerials. In essence,
but I understand it though. He's putting a lot of clips of me because not only I'm playing at a high level, I'm playing against really top players like Jazzo. I would say honestly, I make up like a quarter plus of the clips that he used, and that's not even a joke.
In essence, Ike sort of relies on his opponents.
Hey man, I like the advertisement, bro.
His best, making his performance at low and mid.
I've been shown to like
passable at high tier and
90,000 people.
To repeat, many players believe Ike is a mid-high tier or high tier character. Very respectable.
That turnaround, that forward smash, and that 0 to death.
Unfortunately, though, he was a huge victim of circumstance. In the Brawl days, his only other swordy competition was Marth and I guess Meta Knight. Now we have Roy, Chrom, Marth, Lucina, Cloud, Robin, Corrin, Shulk, Hero, Byleth, Minmin, yes I'm including Minmin, Sephiroth, Pyra, Mithra, Sora. The competition is heavily saturated in the swordy category. Everything he has, someone else can do better or has something else in their moveset that makes them more consistent or more comfortable to play than him. This might be a hot take, but I feel like they made a mistake trying to illustrate him as a slow but powerful swordy. Yes, he's buff, especially in Radiant Dawn, my god. But swordies shouldn't be slow. If they are slow, they should have the necessary means to protect themselves. What intrigues me, however, is the way he plays. Ike's a very neutral focus with punish 1-2 combo kind of guy. He's also very good at platform extension mid-range focus. He could do all that while being faster in exchange for less power. None of the other swordies have a nair that works the way his does, so they could act on that. Perhaps it would be too unfair for him to be any faster or mobile even if it meant losing strength, since a swordy with easy 1-2 conversions might become broken. But that's sort of the premise of Ike to begin with. He doesn't have any fancy DLC mechanic or projectiles or glass cannon properties. He's just a regular guy. He was the first main character in Fire Emblem to not be part of royalty or a position of power. He was just an ordinary dude. Thematically, it makes sense for him to have a very ordinary kid, but that's what I think they should have embraced. I kept saying this throughout the video, but Ike's moveset is perfectly fine if only they weren't trying to sell this Hulk and Bulk feel to it, especially when there's other characters with just as much power as him but way better speed or utility. Maybe I'm not alone in this way of thinking, so if you agree or disagree, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. If they were gonna make Roy top tier after he was bad for 2 games, Ike deserves the same treatment in my opinion. Anyways, this can be it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave.
I mean, would I love for Ike to be top tier? Yes, but then there'd be so many people playing him. And that would just be kind of annoying, to be completely honest with you. I've never really played a top tier character like that. To me, a character, if they are at least like high tier, that means they're not the best, but they can compete with the best and they can win against the best. And that right there is good enough for me. And I want to stand out. I don't want to play a character who everyone's playing. That's why, even though I like Roy, I can't really play him super seriously because I literally live in the land of the Roys in Georgia. I'd rather play Chrom. And also, I see a lot of potential in Chrom that people are not utilizing yet. But, oh yeah, with Giddy, his 9th place win winning against so many good players. Hey man, both characters, their future's looking good. I would say the biggest reason why no one plays him anymore is just because he requires a bit of work. He requires a really just deep understanding of the game. And I'll say he's a very honest character. He doesn't give you can't just turn your brain off and just, do your thing. You can't. You have to think about all of your movement, all of your options, everything. It's very rewarding, but it's also very punishing at the same time. I don't know, man. I've tried playing other characters, but with him, man, he just feels a way that I just keep coming back to him. I've never not wanted to like play him anymore. I've always wanted to play him, but like I was like, hey, let me play like Cloud as a secondary. I tried. He doesn't feel right. I'll say, all right. I'll say that was a very interesting video. I'll say I agreed with some parts, but I disagreed with some others. But yeah, I'd say overall, I'd give it like, a 7 out of 10. That's it for this video. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you liked it, and I'll see all of you next time. Peace.